If you are listening to me now, it is because you have arrived at that moment. That quiet, private, unbearable moment when something deep inside you begins to scream. You may not be able to name exactly what is happening, but you feel it. You can no longer go on living the way you have been, as though a crack has opened somewhere within you, an invisible split dividing who you truly are from the person you have spent years pretending to be. This is not chance. It is inevitability. At some point on the human journey, every single person arrives at this inner collapse. Most ignore it, numbed by the comfort of routine or frozen by the fear of change. But for a few, like you, the collapse does not become an ending. It becomes a call. I spent my life studying this exact moment. I called it the summons to individuation, the hour when the soul simply refuses to go on living beneath the masks it built to please others, to survive, to fit in. And what I am about to say to you is not mere content to fill your time. It is a mirror, reaching you precisely when your conscious mind has run out of answers, and the deeper part of you already knows it is time to act. This is the moment when ordinary life begins to show its true face. An automated existence, shaped by the expectations of others, by worn-out roles, by promises that were never kept. Perhaps you are in a relationship that quietly drains the life out of you. Perhaps in work that pays your bills while it slowly murders your soul, one day at a time. Or perhaps the thing that traps you is subtler still. The shame of disappointing your parents, the fear of not being accepted, the weight of a road that was laid out for you, but never once by you. I warned in my time that the gravest danger of modern life is not chaos. It is the unconscious adaptation to the inauthentic. The true catastrophe is to live a life that is not your own and to never even notice it. And this is exactly why the call arrives through suffering. When the psyche has tried, in every gentle way it knows, to alert you through your dreams, through quiet crises, through a fatigue you cannot explain, and has been ignored again and again, it raises its voice. What was once mere discomfort becomes despair. What was once a faint doubt hardens into anguish. What was once tiredness becomes total collapse. And then something strange begins. You start to draw toward yourself the very messages, the symbols, the signs you need in order to wake. Not because the world is suddenly magical, but because your soul has begun actively to hunt for the keys to its own prison. That is why words like these find you at the very hour you need them most. Most people live their entire lives as the walking asleep. They wake, they work, they produce, they obey, and they repeat it all again tomorrow. And they believe this is normal. It is not. It is merely common. And common is not the same thing as healthy. You were taught from your earliest years to seek stability, to follow the rules, to fit in, to make no noise. The message was always the same. Do not question. Be grateful. Do what is right. But right, you must ask, for whom? I wrote in my later years that the greatest threat to the individual soul in the modern age is neither madness nor poverty. It is massification. The slow transformation of a living human being into a statistic, a replaceable part inside a vast machine that prizes conformity far above authenticity. So when you begin to feel suffocated by your old routine, understand that the feeling is not a defect. It is a signal. A silent scream rising from your psyche, telling you plainly, this is not you. You may have done everything they asked, finished your studies, found the work, found the partner, smiled in all the photographs, and still you feel hollow, as though some part of you stands outside the whole scene, watching it from a distance. That sense of being split is not an illness. It is consciousness trying to be born. It is the deeper self telling you that the mask you built in order to survive is no longer enough to actually live. The normality they sold you is a sophisticated trap. It hands you small doses of pleasure in exchange for your freedom. You receive approval, a steady wage, the acceptance of your family. But the price is steep. You surrender your truth, your inner voice, your spontaneity. And in time, you forget who you ever were. I always said that adaptation to society is necessary. But it turns into a sickness the moment it demands that you abandon your own self. And that is exactly what has happened to countless people. They live perfectly ordinary lives while being emotionally numb, spiritually weary, lost inside their own existence. The system rewards their obedience with distractions, glowing screens, easy comforts, small flickers of approval, a counterfeit sense of belonging. All of it arranged so that you never have to stop and ask yourself the one real question. Am I living, or am I only existing? You may be trying to drown this pain in productivity, in entertainment, in shallow relationships. But no distraction has ever silenced a soul in crisis. And the day you begin to question, the world will rush to convince you that the fault is yours, that it is only anxiety, only stress, that you simply need a holiday. But somewhere underneath, you know the truth. This is not tiredness, it is despair. And something is wrong with your life, not because you are failing, but because you have finally grown awake enough to see that the entire structure is hollow. I once said that the unlived life is a disease from which a person can die. And what I see most of all are people dying slowly, one ordinary day at a time, trapped inside a story they never wrote. But there is a way out, and it begins with tearing down the illusion. The next step is not to fall back asleep. It is to accept that this unease, this restlessness, this deep existential anguish is the prelude to something far greater, your transformation. If any of this is reaching you, subscribe to this channel. What comes next is the heart of it. We live inside a culture that reads suffering as failure. If you are in distress, something must have gone wrong. If you are sad, you must have a problem. If you do not belong, then something must be broken in you. But this reading is a dangerous lie. Suffering is not a flaw to be corrected. It is a sign to be deciphered. And perhaps, for the first time in your life, you are about to understand it. What you call an existential crisis, an emotional collapse, an inner emptiness, is, in truth, the beginning of a profound awakening. The despair, the endless fatigue, the feeling of being out of place, all of it is a symbolic language of the psyche, telling you that you are ready. Ready to shed the mask you have worn for years, ready to look upon your own shadow, ready, at last, to be who you truly are, rather than who the world trained you to be. You may believe you are falling apart, but what is falling apart is not you. It is a character you invented in order to survive, the shell that protected you all this time and has now become your cell. Your suffering is not a sign of weakness, it is a sign of strength, because only a mature soul has the courage to face its own emptiness without anesthesia. I observed that the psyche deliberately produces suffering as a means of transition. When the ego digs in against change, the unconscious answers with symptoms: anxiety, sleeplessness, apathy, anger, confusion. These are not obstacles blocking your path. They are the path. They force you to stop, to question, to turn and look within. They bring down the old structure so that something new can finally rise. The world around you will insist that you return to normal. Take the pill, take the course, breathe deeply, and carry on. But do not be deceived. that normal is the very thing that made you ill. You do not need to go back. You need to go through. You do not need to fix yourself. You need to free yourself. Your pain is a threshold, a doorway. Resist it, and it curdles into chronic suffering. Listen to it, and it becomes an initiation. I said that individuation begins the moment you grow tired of being only half of yourself. When you understand that you can no longer live on the thin surface of your own awareness, and that you must integrate what lies beneath. Your buried emotions, your wounds, your forbidden impulses, your denied desires. This is not a spiritual luxury. It is an urgent matter of your very existence. You are not broken. You are crossing the unknown territory of your own soul, and every tear, every silence, every moment of feeling lost is part of the trail. And now that you have begun to listen, something else begins to happen. You notice that certain things arrive at the exact instant you need them. A book that surfaces from nowhere, a conversation that lands precisely where it hurts, a handful of words like these that reach you on the edge of your collapse. This is not coincidence. I gave it a name, synchronicity, a meaningful coincidence that logic cannot explain, but which the soul recognizes at once as true. The unconscious is not merely a cellar of old wounds. It is a living intelligence, a moving system that works without rest, to balance, to guide, and to heal the conscious mind. As you approach your breaking point, the unconscious raises the intensity of its symbols, and it reaches for everything within its grasp. Your dreams, images, emotions, the very arrangement of the world around you begins to mirror the transformation taking place inside you. Not because the universe is conspiring on your behalf, but because your own psyche is drawing toward itself exactly what it needs in order to grow. And when you are ready, the right symbols appear. They do not shout, they whisper, they do not argue, they touch. And you feel, with a clarity that unsettles you, that this is meant for you, not for someone in general, for you. The unconscious speaks in symbols because it knows the ego resists being changed, so it does not try to reason with you. It hints, it suggests, it leads you down paths you did not plan to walk. A song that brings tears you cannot account for. A passage in a book that seems to describe your own life. A dream that returns night after night, refusing to be dismissed. I said that until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. But the moment you begin to read its signs, it stops being your hidden enemy and becomes your quiet ally, guiding you with a firm and silent hand. But knowing all of this is not enough. Now you must do something with it, and the next step is not gentle, because it asks for fear, it asks for risk, it asks you to release the safe ground and leap into the unknown. Every true transformation demands a crossing, and every crossing demands a leap. Not a leap of the body, but of the psyche. The moment you abandon the story that kept you safe, even while it kept you miserable, and walk toward a version of yourself you do not yet know. This is the most decisive point of the whole journey, and it is exactly here that most people turn back, because the leap is terrifying. It means losing your footing. It means having no more maps, no more guarantees, no more instructions. It means laying down the carefully built mask that carried you this far and has now become a polished prison. It means saying no to everything that looks right on the outside in order to finally say yes to what beats on the inside. I compared this moment to the confrontation with the inner dragon, an ancient figure that holds all the fears, the doubts, the resistances that rise at the very threshold of change. This dragon will tell you that you have lost your mind, that the timing is wrong, that you are not ready, that you will lose everything, that you will disappoint the people you love, that you will regret it bitterly. It will parade before you every possible vision of failure, because it knows that if you leap, it dies. And the ego fears its own symbolic death more than it fears any pain at all. But here is the truth that almost no one has the courage to say to you. The fear you feel in this moment is not a warning to retreat. It is the sign to move forward. Fear is the marker telling you that you are standing in exactly the right place. I said that the meeting with oneself is at first the meeting with one's own shadow, that the abyss, the underworld from which no one escapes, is the self. This means that before you find your freedom, you will be made to face everything you have refused to feel for years. The fear of being rejected, of failing, of losing. The grief of all the things that must die so that something new can be born. It hurts. It can paralyze you. But it also sets you free. Because once you have crossed, even stumbling, even weeping, even doubting, you discover that on the far side of fear there is life. Real life. Not survival, not conformity, not appearance, but presence and authenticity and meaning. You do not need to feel entirely ready in order to leap. No one ever does. You need only to be tired enough of pretending, weary enough of the lie, brave enough to say, I do not know what comes next, but I can no longer stay here. And here is one of the hardest truths to swallow, and perhaps the most liberating of them all. No one is coming to save you. No person, no teacher, no book, no healer. No voice from outside will reach in and pull you from the pit you are in. That responsibility belongs to you and to you alone. And the sooner you accept it, the sooner your true freedom begins. You have been conditioned to wait for someone to finally recognize your pain, for your partner to change, for your work to value you, for your family to understand, for the perfect moment to arrive, or for courage to appear out of thin air. But all of this is illusion. The figure of the rescuer who comes from outside is one of the oldest traps of the collective mind. It is the voice of the wounded child in you, still waiting to be protected, comforted, told where to go. But you are no longer that child. You are the adult now. And the adult, however much it costs, must take charge of their own journey. I said clearly that individuation, this becoming of who you are, cannot be lived by another on your behalf. No one can walk this road for you, because the road is inward and entirely your own. Every step must be yours, every choice, every fall, every rebirth. To take radical responsibility does not mean you are to blame for everything that was done to you. It means that from this moment forward, you are responsible for no longer staying where you are. Even if others caused the wound, the healing now depends on you. Your ego will tell you that it is impossible, that it is dangerous, that you are not prepared. But the ego is a coward. It only wants to survive. Your soul wants something else entirely. It wants to live. And the moment you take up the weight of your own life is the moment your true maturity begins. You stop casting yourself as the victim and you begin to rebuild, in silence, without an audience, without any guarantees, but with dignity. So we come to the line. There is an invisible line that separates the life you are living from the life you came here to live. And that line is not built of money or obstacles or the opinions of other people. It is built of fear. The fear of changing, of disappointing, of failing, of stepping out of the cave of the ordinary and walking alone into the unknown. But it is on the other side of that fear that your real life is waiting. Fear, I learned, is not your enemy. It is the guardian of the threshold. Every time you feel dread at the thought of breaking free, it is because you are about to touch something sacred, your true self. The polite, smiling, useful mask you made once protected you. Now it is your prison. And the key to your escape lies in the one place you least wish to look, inside the fear itself, the pain, the anguish, the emptiness you keep trying to bury under distraction. All of it is your soul, pushing you toward the life that was always meant to be yours. And you know this. You have felt it through every word. Because even without being able to explain it, something in you recognizes that these words are not meant for someone in general. They are meant for you. So the question is no longer whether you are ready. You will never feel ready. The question is whether you will go on dragging yourself through a life that is making you ill, or whether you will cross through the fear and begin at last to truly live. No one will come to save you. There will be no clearer sign than this one. There will be no manual. But there is a choice. And that choice is here, now. So leave a mark of it, a single line, right below, I choose to cross. Not for me, for you. Because to name a thing is to call it into being, and to write it down is to seal it. Let this be the first conscious decision of the life that is waiting for you. And stay for the next video. You have already begun the crossing. Do not stop now.